So thanks for having us, Team NFD, and obviously this isn't the first time that we present an NFD, and it was one of our launch events at the time, so that was 6 years ago, and so I wanted to just basically give a bit of an update on EdgeConnect of what we've been doing basically the last year, and also a little bit of a preview of what's to come. So today I've got Adam Powers joining me. So Adam's also on the product management team. And the way we're going to split it up is I'm going to give you a little bit of background on some of the features, but also a bit of an under the hood perspective of why and how we built some of the features. And then Adam's fully licensed to take the product through its paces. So he's going to give you a demo. So you're going to see essentially the actual features at work as a customer would. Right, so we're going to basically focus on real customer use cases. Just to quickly position kind of the content within the Aruba Edge portfolio. So I'll just quickly add a note to, and David covered some of this. I'll add a note to the unified infrastructure piece. One of the key tenets of EdgeConnect has always been that we leverage x86 architectures. We're not doing ASICs. We're not in the business of trying to churn hardware. So everything that you'll see today, so it's May 2021, are going to be features that customers can roll out onto the hardware that they bought when we launched EdgeConnect back in August of 2015. And so obviously that's great from a customer point of view. And so the innovation that we're really doing is at a software layer. So it's at the protect layer. We're going to focus on edge to cloud security, but also all of the software defined networking features that we have essentially sort of live within that segment. And then on top of that, the orchestration. So for edge to cloud security, and maybe just before we launch into it, just kind of getting the naming straight so you guys know which parts of the product I'm referring to. The product line is called EdgeConnect. EdgeConnect really refers to the end device. And so EdgeConnect as a cloud form factor, as a physical form factor for convenience is really something that lives at the edge of the SD-WAN fabric. It's the key to zero-touch provisioning. We showed that in NFD 11. It's the key to some of the multipathing, the active-active packet dispersal. And so we showed that in NFD 14. And so today what you'll really see is all of the orchestrator-based features. So our customers provision their network with these endpoints, but from a management point of view, really everything happens, all the magic happens within the web UI that is Orchestrator. We provide that as an on-premise offering or as a cloud service that we run as Orchestrator as a service. Third component, it's the boost and one optimization piece, full sort of Magic Quadrant, leader, Gartner leader, sort of five times over feature set, but it's not something that we've generally shown. I don't think we've done a single demo actually with you at NFD, so that's also not in the scope of this. Just know that it's managed as a resource pool. Any of the actual network segments that we'll show today could be one optimized and accelerated by a checkbox, right? And so that's basically probably why we've never shown it to you in the past. It's literally just a checkbox. And so kind of going back to the use cases, it's been a wild year. We've all lived it, right? And so work from anywhere has been a really big use case for some of our customers. We've got customers and use cases of putting EdgeConnects in medical backpacks. We've got customers that at the beginning of the pandemic relocated teleworking environments from call centers into people's houses. And so these deployments obviously were ones that we were ready for, but at the same time, it gave us a lot of sort of confidence and a little bit more insight into what does it mean from a security point of view to have this much more distributed edge. So work from anywhere really is sort of the explosion of the data center as the place where the applications live. And the killer technology for work from anywhere really is orchestration and automation of local breakout. And one of the key components of the EdgeConnect infrastructure is that we can attach internet breakouts to all of the sites, and we can essentially handle the types of applications that take a certain breakout path versus going back to the data center from a policy that is a centralized sort of policy engine. And so that's always been the key component of the EdgeConnect product. What we've done and what we'll show you here is an extension of these capabilities in terms of service orchestration, in terms of additional built-in security capabilities, such as unified threat management for branch security. And so that's really addressing some of these work from anywhere use cases. David also alluded to digital transformation. What we've seen is a lot of our customers, especially in sort of the 50 site to 200 site markets or the upper mid-market, have had a huge increase in the numbers of IoT devices connected to the network. And so we've worked with a lot of these customers around, sort of automating some of the VLAN configurations at the edge of an EdgeConnect network. We speak standard protocols. So we speak VLAN, we speak VRF, we speak zones. How do you tie these pieces into a unified automation framework so that the switch guy that thinks about VLANs and the router guy that's speaking in terms of VRFs and the security that is done in terms of zones actually don't work across purposes? So we actually saw quite a bit, and we had quite a lot of learnings with customers on sort of some of the aberrations where you transport a packet across the wide area network to then drop it on the other side because the zone setup was a little bit different from what the VRF setup was. And so that's really the two use cases. Adam will kind of go into those from a demo point of view. I did mention, obviously, you guys, I don't know if it works on the Zoom format as well as in person, but you guys feel free to interrupt if you have questions as we go. So advanced segmentation. So what we're introducing and what we're demoing today is essentially an additional element of security that is really targeted at an IoT use case. If you have IoT devices within your branches, you can't go and apply an agent, a SASE, a zero trust network access agent to that device. And more than that, if the device is compromised, it's got this risk of lateral movement and being able to essentially go from an HVAC VLAN into part of the business, the transactional financial transaction network. And so what we really did was we kind of looked at it as, what if instead of everything being reachable by default, which is the way that the internet was built, what if we took a model where you have an explicit allow list of who is allowed to communicate with what else? And if it's not in that list, it just doesn't even see that device, right? From an IP point of view, it's just a black hole, right? It's not just that we forbid the communications, it literally cannot be transported from a network layer 2, layer 3 network point of view. And so in this example here, we have a site that has cameras, right? Camera probably only needs to be talking to the video surveillance backend. Point of sale terminal probably only needs to be talking to the financial backend, but perhaps in some locations you want to print out the receipt and be able to do that by crossing it to different zones. So we can allow that. But what you'll basically see with this matrix is, by definition, it should be sparse. And so what we did.
Can you go back a slide?
Yes.
So question, how do you determine the identity of all these IoT sensors that do not support .1x?
Yeah, so very, very, very good question. So essentially with the ClearPass, so this is the part where the ClearPass integration comes in. And we have different methods of identifying devices. So anything that is recognizable from a .1x point of view or is set up through the Radius server, we will be, we connect. And so, we're jumping a little bit ahead here, but we're essentially connecting to the ClearPass API to be able to synchronize and learn about that state. For some of the other elements, there's other indications of what the device can be in terms of the actual, what is the device insights that we're gathering from the actual traffic that it's generating. So one of the unique pieces about the integration with ClearPass is that as a device is recognized, and obviously the visibility aspect and the classification of that flow is where the segmentation starts. As the device is recognized, we also monitor its ongoing communications. And so you can essentially put things in buckets based on the security posture of what their actual traffic is, as opposed to what was the declared entry in the database. So just to maybe go back on this, and I think we start a little bit at the top of the stack here, but what we basically have is a multi-layer stack for segmentation. And so when we launched EdgeConnect, the key capability from a network virtualization point of view that we introduced was the ability to take multiple physical transport networks, each with their own unit economics, right? Different bandwidth, different service level objectives. But instead of just inheriting that quality of experience and exposing that to a particular class of applications, we allow the application to express what it wanted to see from the network. And so essentially expressing loss, latency, jitter requirements, expressing also topology requirements. So we also abstract the underlying topology. We can expose a full mesh connectivity for a real-time application, but we can express something that is more of a regional topology for applications that perhaps it's a global company with different continents, and on one continent it may make sense to have everything communicated to one or two hubs on that continent, but then use an MPLS or use an hyperscaler backbone as a backhaul across continents. So that was essentially the launch feature set for this enhanced quality of experience. What we then added last year, and so this is our 9.0 release, and so today what you'll see Adam demonstrate is essentially a 9.05 release of that. What we launched last year was this unique addition of network-based segmentation from a layer 2, layer 3, and zone capability, and then uniquely tying that together in terms of the automation and having a single sort of logical end-to-end firewall capability. And so we'll get back to a little bit of that later on as well. That was great for customers to be able to have sandboxes for real-time traffic, sandboxes for IoT traffic, sandboxes for their financial traffic. But what we really wanted to do was, to the ability that we had the visibility and that we could essentially through APIs communicate with the Radius backends and the ClearPass infrastructure, allow the customer to slice that by users, devices, and roles, and also respond to a change in terms of reclassification of that role based on the real-time device insights. So what we essentially did is augment our policy engine. So when you see the demo, it's essentially a very sort of an addition to our current, what we call the business intent overlays. It's something that fits really well within our framework, where the application identity was our core currency. We've essentially augmented that when we get information from ClearPass on device type users and roles. All of the downstream policy capabilities are available to that augmentation of essentially the identity of the device and the traffic. So whether it's quality of experience, whether it's segmentation, whether it's security. So adding a second element to this, so this is going back to a little bit more of the work from anywhere use cases. Starting in about 2017, we added firewall capabilities to EdgeConnect. And so we've really been on a path to add more and more capabilities from a built-in security point of view. And so we have URL filtering, we have web-based reputation. We obviously also have partnership and service orchestration across cloud POPs such as Zscaler and Checkpoint and Netscope. But what we're also launching is the ability to plug into Aruba's unified threat management infrastructure, both from a signature feed point of view, as well as exporting the alerts and logs back into Aruba Central and being able to then drive those into a data lake on which the AIOps product operates. So essentially integration of the portfolio from an end-to-end point of view, but also an additional built-in capability to the device itself. So this is quickly just to show you a little bit of a bigger view of this matrix, right? So we had the slide before that. So a lot of the capabilities that we've built from a segmentation and zone point of view are integrated, and they're integrated into this one network-wide matrix. And the reason this is important is that we wanted to have consistency between the routing decisions that we make at a given site, knowing what at the destination site might actually happen to that traffic from a zone assignment point of view. So think of this as end-to-end segmentation, or think of it as what I've called a big logical firewall. So instead of having individual firewalls at individual sites, this matrix makes the entire network act like one big sort of planet scale modular chassis where each of the line cards is a specific site, and we have a consistency of the policies. A lot of our customers are using, we also expect a lot of our customers to be using IDS IPS in not just an all or nothing deployment model. So one of the challenges sometimes with some of these security appliances is right scaling it, or having to feed or decide which traffic needs to actually be spanned or rerouted to go through that device. So what the matrix allows you to do as a customer is it allows you to decide, are you more concerned about applying unified threat management to traffic within a certain zone, perhaps the financial zone, right? Perhaps on the guest side, you're not so interested in applying those capabilities within the zone, but perhaps you're interested when they cross a zone. So point of sale register crosses zone to go print out a receipt. Maybe something you want to allow, you can allow that, but you can also inspect it. And so essentially having these toggles of, I want to allow the traffic, I want inspection, I can choose to do that or not, or I want to block the traffic. And on this matrix, obviously, you have a combination of all of these elements. That's the management experience, right? So the management experience is network-wide. What happens under the hood, and so I'll end on this slide. What happens under the hood from a network security point of view, obviously, has data path implications. And so you won't see sort of the equivalent of this slide within the orchestrator product, right? You'll see the matrix, but based on that matrix, what the automation then does is understands where do these zone crossings occur? Where is that VRF terminated to a VLAN, and apply the actual function at that point. So from a branch point of view, if you're doing unified threat management for your east-west traffic, right? So that was kind of the IoT use case. You want the HVAC to stay separate from the financial transaction backend. That's 1 and 2 on this slide, right? So we will essentially put that in the path of the traffic as it traverses the branch east-west, or it goes through the SD-WAN fabric and goes east-west, sort of from across the different sites point of view. You could also say, I'm more interested in my IDS capability from a north-south point of view. So that's number 2 here. So for local breakout, you have the ability to associate the capability and essentially break that traffic. You can also, and this is very common for a lot of our customers are moving to not a monolithic sort of data center topology, but they're moving to a much more distributed sort of edge-based networks. So they have a lot more regional hubs. Sometimes they're in IaaS, sometimes they're in EdgeConnect, sometimes they're on-premise. So based on the policy processing of that traffic, we will then apply the security at point 3, the firewall at the edge hub, and break it out from there. Or we can also force the traffic to traverse an asset, the firewall asset that the customer has on that premise. And so that's number 4. Same capabilities apply in cloud. So we've always treated cloud as kind of a first-class priority or first-class citizen from the point of view of what we support with EdgeConnect. And so we support AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud. And then from a cloud perspective as well, if the customer is using a cloud service for firewall, we've spent a lot of time working with the cloud firewall partners on integrations. And the part that's really unique about that is it's not just being able to create a tunnel to Zscaler, but it's discovering where is that point of presence. And sort of within the field of SD-WAN products, we're kind of unique from that day 0 capability of discovering where is that cloud POP, and also being cognizant of if you're at the edge of your country, at the border of your country, and the closest POP is in the neighboring country, you may have policy decisions where you'd actually want to prefer in-country privacy and using that in-country point of presence. And so those are all things that we essentially allow through that integration. We've also announced a much more flexible way to do service orchestration to allow us to onboard some of these cloud partners faster. And so we use that for the onboarding of Netscope, which we announced, I think a month or two ago. And so essentially a very vast automation feature set that's behind that matrix, but that is not something that you as a IT administrator would manage on a sort of site-by-site basis. So I'll stop here and I'll see if there's any questions. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. So regarding the security, are you using things like a single pass engine, or is it based on traditional firewall mechanics like signatures from antivirus providers and things like that? And do I see that right? It's your firewall depends on partner software, on third-party software, or is it development from Aruba?
Yeah, no, excellent question. So this is all, so the built-in capabilities on this slide, except for point number 6, all of the 5 others are built-in native capabilities to the platform. For the IDSP specifically, we used Aruba's Unified Threat Management code. We had our own project underway as well, but that actually was accelerated by being able to use that. And we use, there is a partner that feeds some of these signatures in, which is essentially the same partner is used Aruba-wide. So from a portfolio point of view, we use consistent set of feed, export to the same central and AI ops platforms as well, and then indeed use some common code for the IDS capability specifically. For the application recognition, we built that in-house, and so for essentially application identification and being able to do that from a DPI point of view, but also from a cloud SaaS application classification point of view, that is a capability we've built in-house, and we're still sort of extending it and making sure it's up to date for the last 3-4 years. Essentially, we have the capability to recognize any of the HTTPS transported SaaS applications. HTTPS basically is the new TCP, right? So we've really invested in that capability. And that's been one of the core differentiators for EdgeConnect in the market.
So are you working with decoders at this point?
So yes, we work with so by decoders not for HTTPS traffic. So we're not doing man in the middle to recognize that sort of traffic. We do that based on a cloud portal capability where we do mapping of applications to IP addresses and do automated learning on the devices themselves to essentially then cache that information on the device. And so that gives us sort of 2 million SaaS application resolution without having to go and do manual work and having databases that need to be fully resident on the device. And so that's something that's coming through the cloud portal to the EdgeConnect device in terms of essentially a feed.
Okay, maybe later I want to know more about that. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. And I think on that some of the ways that we're doing that capability, I think we had it was probably either NFT 14 or 17 if there's any viewers that want to go back and see some of that. So we explained a little bit more about how that database and that mapping works.
Okay.
Is it also possible to augment this with something on the endpoint, like an agent? So I have a unified policy for real remote work from home users and my branches?
We don't enable a custom agent on our own EdgeConnect devices, but we have customers that are using on a universal CPU or using EdgeConnect in combination with sort of agents and VNF components to do that. So for example, having a true next-gen firewall on the device. But it's something that requires customer integration with hypervisors. So we support those universal CP platforms, but we haven't directly qualified the third-party VNFs.
What I more meant was, for example, I have a bunch of customers with laptops and they also work from home. I would love to have the same policy on that client as well as in the branch office. So I have a unified policy. Can I do that?
Yes, yes, you can. So in the interest of time, I didn't add that piece, but there's a part of there's solution integration that we've done with the rest of the Aruba portfolio. And so essentially you can have a mix and match of laptops with VIA, would essentially be the agent on that, with micro branches, with IAP deployments and RAP deployments, and then with EdgeConnect sites. And we essentially have define an architecture where they peer together and they can communicate together. We are also in the process of integrating some of the IT management and sort of control, experience, UI admin experience pieces of that. Won't be shown in the demo today, just to, put that out there, but it is something we're actively working on. I suspect we'll come back and do a future NFD, and that probably will be the actual demo that we'll show you.
We got another question over here, more on the data plane side of things. In a lot of the SD-WAN and whatnot products, we've seen a lack of support for the current version of the Internet Protocol. And I was kind of curious to hear about what Aruba's take is on IPv6 and, how well is it supported? Is it coming now or coming later?
So not Aruba, but I can speak for the EdgeConnect piece. And so IPv6 at the edge has been something that we've, especially on the WAN side, right, for some of our customers, especially in Asia Pacific and Japan, obviously that's been a day one requirement pretty much. So we were pretty early on supporting IPv6 from a WAN point of view, from a BGP and OSPF point of view, it's something that we're working on currently. So that is the one element of V6 that we don't have natively today, which is to peer at a data center with a BGP or an OSPF router on V6. All of the other elements of V6 we've had for some time now, and we agree. The standard aspect is important for EdgeConnect, and I'm probably not stretching by saying it's the philosophy of the company at large, not just Aruba, but HP at large. And so anything that connects and interoperates to the fabric, we want to be supportive of any standards. So L2, L3 coming as well, VXLAN support, right? So there's some elements of standardization that still need to happen around sort of security tags and GPO, but certainly from a VXLAN termination transport point of view, that's something that we're working on as well.
I am increasingly getting SEs and sales teams that ask about IPv6. It is finally becoming a determining factor in deals, in opportunities for the EdgeConnect product. We've been able to dual stack on the WAN side for a long time. So you can form a V4 tunnel and a V6 tunnel for your AT&T modem and have two different paths, if you will, across the internet using both. You actually get different latencies and a different performance curve for V4 versus V6 sometimes. But what we're starting to see more so is that people are wanting V6 on the LAN side, like in the spoke or in the branch. And we're adding VRP and OSPF and BGP support for V6 relatively soon. So I think it's increasing more so in the PAC rim, not as much in North America.
Yeah, it's good to hear that support's being worked on, because I know that that's definitely becoming a deal breaker for a lot of things to support the latest versions, because it is very important, especially on the LAN side. So
that's what it needed, though. It needed to become a deal breaker, and there are a number of large customers that are making it a deal breaker, and the vendors, I think, will finally decide to commit what's necessary. There's a lot that goes into V6, and sometimes from a PM standpoint it's a little hard to see how it's going to be used in the real world, because not as many folks seem to need it.